Welcome to Career Conversations with Jason Castonguay, pianist and vocalist. At the age of 3 years old, Jason was found not playing the scales on a toy organ, but the Star Spangled Banner. Jason is totally blind from ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, and uses Braille music. Jason performs for all different types of occasions and is best known for his music in the Great American Songbook genre. This music appeals to individuals of all ages. Jason can be found weekly on Art Felt on ACB Media on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, Jason, for joining us tonight. And do you have anything to correct that I've said or that you want to add to before we get started with our questions?
Well, thank you, Lori. It's a pleasure to be here, and everything you said sounds great.
Fabulous. Okay. And for our attendees, I just want to remind you that you can type your questions into the chat, and we will be switching over to Katie periodically to check in with questions from the chat. And so our first question is, Jason, can you tell us a little about your elementary school years and what that was like for you as somebody who is totally blind?
Sure. In elementary school, I first I started with everything. I was in a mainstream elementary school, and I had an aide that would consult with the consultant from the Services for the Blind in Connecticut and get any materials that I needed, things like that in Braille. And I remember those very early days when I started reading Braille. And they never let me live down a particular phrase I uttered one day. Apparently, I had quite the little personality. And so when I was learning Braille, at one point, I trailed my finger down the left edge of the paper. This was in kindergarten. And I stated, there are 5 examples here. I will do 4. Just just to give you an idea of maybe a little bit of the fun times that we all experienced. But I have to say my schooling was very successful in my opinion. I had access to Braille learning. Um, my aide was very good about making sure that if things were displayed visually, that I had a tactile representation of what was being displayed. Um, I ran around with the other kids during recess. Sometimes they had trouble finding me in the mix of other kids. um, and um, my my experience was very positive. I don't know if there are more specific. Um,
Great. No, that's fine.
okay.
So you actually didn't learn Braille music totally while you were in elementary school.
That's
Um,
right.
so can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to learn Braille music, um, more than what you actually learned when you were in elementary school?
Sure. I was quite resistant to the idea of Braille music initially. Um, at one point in elementary school, I believe it was 4th grade, we were all to attend a general assembly. And during this program, we were shown all the different instruments, what they sound like, a little description. And of course, I was invited to go up and feel the instruments afterward. And I thought, oh, wow, the trombone, it sounds so jazzy. I want to play that. So, in doing so, my music teacher at the time insisted, you are going to learn just the way all my other students learn, which is by reading the music. And in order to do that, my consultant from the Board of Education Services for the Blind, I think we were both learning at the same time. She was my transcriber of all sorts of materials, and so she figured out what was needed and brailled the music that I needed to learn for the trombone. I didn't like it. I played primarily by ear, and I felt this is ridiculously complicated and I don't need this. But I tried it. I wasn't very good. I sometimes forgot to bring my music. I wasn't used to bringing music with me, and that would very much agitate my teacher. Um, so, unfortunately, the trombone didn't last very long. And it wasn't until much later that I went to a summer music program in high school that allowed me to experience much more Braille music and in a class of other students doing the same. That felt much better. However, it was short. It was a short program, 10 days, and we learned very quickly and in such a way that um, we were very much given opportunity to make form ensembles and things like that. But once it was over, it was over. And unfortunately, I still had enough resistance, coupled with the very strong opinions of the teacher who was teaching us, that felt frustrating. And it wasn't until about 5 years ago that in earnest I began learning, and I this whole process happened because I was taking harp lessons, and my teacher was referring to all sorts of music on the page, rhythmic things, bar lines, all sorts of things that I knew about but didn't know, wasn't able to talk intelligently about, or at least as well as I would like. So I felt this is the time for me to really do this. My brain is asking for the information, or I am asking for the information. So that must mean I'm ready to receive. I'm going to pick up this book that's been on my bookshelf for a while called Who's Afraid of Braille Music?
Ah, great title.
Yes, I love it. It is a wonderful, and it's not one of these like thick, intimidating books. It's a very easy to read book, and it's Richard Teish and Bill McCann who wrote the book together. It explains things in such a clear and easy to understand way that I don't believe I had seen until that time, that caused me to hit the ground running with Braille music. I was so excited. I understood it finally. The switches in the brain were all flipping the right way so that I wasn't looking at the Braille music and saying, "Oh, it's weird. It's not literary, but it looks like literary Braille. What am I going to do?" No, it all made sense. And I had a teacher for a short time. Actually, it was a pretty good while. And I began going through books that my formal piano lessons started with, the Suzuki piano
Hmm.
books. I discovered that the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled had them on Bard, and I could just download them and read exactly all those things that my teacher was reading back in the day that I didn't understand fully that she was reading, and I could understand all the little dynamic marks and expression notes in the music that as a child I thought, oh, this is her opinion of how it should be done. I didn't understand that these things were written in the music so much. And
Mm.
it was so rewarding to be able to read for myself, interpret for myself, understand how it all works. And that's how my journey. It was a rather long and stuttering or halted sort of journey, but it came together, and I'm so happy.
So we frequently get teachers and parents participating in both our webinars like we're doing tonight and as well as listening to this on YouTube. Um, looking back, now that you know that if you had learned to read Braille music earlier in life, you would have been able to look at the material in the Suzuki books that your teacher was referring to. Do you think that would have been beneficial to you as a musician?
Yes, sometimes we inadvertently leave doors closed when it would be helpful for them to be open. However, there's also the the principle that sometimes we can't learn something we don't know we need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so while part of me is regretful of how long it took me, um, maybe I wouldn't have appreciated it the way that I'm appreciating it now had I just forged ahead and did it even though I wasn't fully understanding why I needed to do it. Um, and, as children, often we're not as appreciative of things as we are later in life.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
And would you recommend, for our TVIs and even for parents and young adults who might be listening tonight, that the TVI works in conjunction with the music teacher to help the student best effectively use the Braille music?
I think that would be a wonderful thing. I think that it never hurts to have the TBI involved because, I mean, every person has different bits of knowledge. My teacher aide was very clever and often found really uh, ingenuitive. What's the word I'm looking for? She was very ingenuitive, I guess. She
Mm-hmm.
always found really neat ways of showing me things. There was never really any hesitation as to how to do it. And if a TBI happens to be musical and understands things, gosh, not only can a student learn about the Braille, but there could be all sorts of neat uh, diagrams to show. Like I would love to know more about print notation, for example, because it's nice to have the Braille and it's great for us,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes, uh, especially if blind students are working with sighted students, it's really helpful to be able to explain something in the arena of print notation so that everyone can relate. Right now, I have a good enough idea, but for example, Braille music is linear and doesn't involve staves, where print notation does. And being able to articulate and explain to other students or peers um, about these differences, I think makes it that much easier to keep conversation going rather than, oh, it's so different and complicated, forget it. You do your thing, I'll do mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I see that somebody has posted in the
Yes.
chat. Go ahead,
Lori,
Katie. You
yeah,
want to
while
read
we're on the
it?
topic of Braille music, we have some great comments here. So,
Wonderful.
someone is recognizing that the book that you referenced, which I'm going to ask for the title again for myself because I want to check it out.
Yeah.
The Braille music book. They said that's a great book. They've used it with two of their students. And they also found the recorder book from APH is also helpful.
Oh, oh,
And
wonderful.
they wondered if you could share some of the other books you've downloaded from Bard.
Sure.
Um, they also said the APH Tactile Graphics Image Library has some great print music. So maybe that's something to check out. We'll have to check that out on
Oh,
our Monarchs,
And
Lori.
thank you
for
for that.
those of you who don't know, the Tactile Graphics Library through APH is free images that you can download and um, emboss. And if you have a Monarch, you can look at them right on the Monarch.
Or the Braille display, probably, but more on the Monarch.
I'm
No,
thinking
probably
more
not, because if they're
not
the
on a
images,
display because it's going to
no.
be an image, so it's going to be
Yeah.
Yeah,
bigger
you
than
would
one
need that
line.
those
Yeah,
multi-lines.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's really
That's
cool.
that is
That
very cool.
that
Thank
is
you.
very cool because
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the reasons I always found music boring. Like I'll listen to music, but listen, I have no rhythm. I have no like, oh God, nobody wants to hear me sing. Um, but anyway, I never understood the visual side of things. And I remember the music teacher when I was little going through that type of stuff and being so bored.
Mm.
So,
I can
uh,
appreciate that. And like I said, if you're not asking for the knowledge, it's really hard sometimes because somebody's trying to drill it into us and we're
Mhm.
mhm.
not ready, and there comes the boredom. Um,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
but before I forget, I just wanted to acknowledge that question about other books on Bard that I downloaded. Um, there is a Betty Krolik book. I don't remember the spelling of Krolik. I want to say Chrolic. I'm not sure, but the book is the Dictionary of Braille Music Signs. I highly recommend it. It's a great reference when I'm reading music and I'm like, ooh, what's this thing? I'm not sure what this is. I can look it up. It's very easy, especially on a digital, electronic braille device where you can do a quick search for a symbol. However, they do provide a wonderful table of contents that makes it easy to find symbols. Also, um, there is the uh, Primer of Braille Music or Braille Music Primer. I can't remember how exactly the title is, but Primer and Braille Music should bring it up. And of course, any of these books can be downloaded, but can also be requested on demand, which is wonderful. I
Mhm.
And
have almost
and
everything on demand.
just for those of you who may not know what on demand is, you can receive them in hard copy braille directly from the National Library Service.
Yes. And there are some teaching books regarding, I mean, I even found how to play the harp is on there with all of the notes and the fingering and all of that. There is a it's from Hadley. It's a Braille music teaching program, and you download the Braille file, um, but there is a corresponding audio piece that lets you hear all the tracks of the examples in the Braille edition. I think that's a great resource as well. Because the primer is very fast and shows you everything kind of very quickly. It builds very quickly rather. The Who's Afraid of Braille Music's a great getting started. Um, the the teaching book from Hadley that's on Bard is great in that it's very traditional, regimented course that takes a student through little by little and has sections of text that explains everything, followed by examples, and then there's like a quiz. So it has that sort of feel to it.
Great.
Great.
And I've put some of those in chat. So if you are looking for resources, they're in the chat.
Right.
So right now you primarily do performing work, is that correct?
That's correct.
Hmm. And do you work like with somebody that like helps you get stuff, get like gigs, or do you go out and like do that on your own? And how do you manage that business side of things?
So far, I happen to be married and my spouse is sighted and I can get taken anywhere that I need to, which is very helpful. However, I realize not everybody is in that position. But the business aspect, a lot of what I've done, I started so young with some of this. I started gigging even before I left high school. And
Good
so
for you.
a lot of my connections have been maintained. Word of mouth was really
Hmm.
good back then. I have a website, however, it is under construction. I recently finished a course that the Blind Information Technology Specialists affiliate of ACB offered that shows us how to work on our own websites. And I plan on taking that knowledge and giving my site a much needed facelift. Um, the website is helpful because on business cards, for example, I have a bunch of business cards printed and I can hand them out and people see the webpage. They can just go there and hear examples. They can't right now, unfortunately, though, because I I am still working on it. Um, but that is something I want to get back up and running. My spouse knows how to do really great brochures and pamphlets and handout kinds of things. So often he'll end up designing all sorts of things on the computer. And then when I do some, like recently, I did a concert, a fundraising concert, and he was handing out programs, and people had all a bunch of information at their fingertips, right on the pamphlet. So um, other connections, I'm trying to think. I mean, I haven't had a publicist or manager or anything like that so far. I'm still kind of on the smaller side, but I've had plenty of work and plenty of connections, and I think it's always very important as a musician who is working in this way to network and keep those connections strong, maybe reach out once in a while, because people without meaning to may be busy and not forget, but sometimes a little reminder helps them say, oh yeah, this thing's coming up and we have nobody able to provide music for this. So, oh yeah, great. Can you do it? So that's happened as well. Um, Anything else I can elaborate on?
No, I think that
Uh,
covers it.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you do some work at home and that type of thing and recording from home. Can you tell us a little about your home studio?
Sure. My home studio started very hesitantly because as much as I love technology, I was a little intimidated by audio gear like mixers and involving all sorts of cables and things. And I eventually discovered through talking with friends, look, the only way you're going to figure it out is if you just do it. Just get it and try it already. So um, I started out with a small mixer that had just 5 channels of audio and connected it to my Mac. And I had a keyboard that I discovered at first I was just connecting the keyboard into the audio channels of the mixer and using the keyboard's sounds. But it wasn't long after that that I discovered, hey, I can connect the keyboard to the computer so that the computer sees the notes that I play and generates the sounds. And I was kind of amazed at the access that at the time GarageBand on the Mac gave me to all sorts of interesting sounds, more professional sounds than what my keyboard could offer. And then I got a mic, and then I learned how to use audio editing software. I started out with a program on the Mac called Amadeus, which I thought was a really cool name.
It is.
And Jonathan Mosen actually did a really great audio tutorial on how to use that, and that's what really got me going strong. But not long after, lots of friends were talking about Reaper, and
Ah.
Reaper's cross-platform. Reaper's great.
Mm-hmm.
Reaper's all this kind of cool stuff. So it took me a while, but I learned how to use Reaper, and that is typically between Reaper and Logic Studio on the Mac. Those are my primary resources for recording and editing audio.
Great. And those of you who might be looking for a tutorial on Reaper, I know Mystic Access has one. I don't know how current it is.
Oh,
Um,
yes, that's
but I
right.
know that they have recorded one. Um, okay, great.
Mhm.
So can you think of any obstacles in your career that you encountered and how you may have overcome those obstacles?
I think my biggest obstacle, and you may laugh at this, is probably that I am the worst self-marketer ever. I am not good at it at all, and it really helps to have someone promote me because I don't do that well. But I realize what you're asking involves more than just that. Um, I I
But
think
I think you're
okay,
being very honest, and that's a legitimate, I think, challenge that many people face. Like, I hate being talked about. I hate listening to my voice. Like, I'm
yeah, me
totally
too.
okay doing like a presentation like this and interviewing you, but I can't listen back to it.
Right.
I just can't.
Right. And if I have to edit my own audio, I am merciless at just chopping out things that I don't think need to be there. And I'm not very forgiving with self,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But I I I I am working on that. Um, I think another obstacle would be, I mean, maybe some of these are just obvious, but they don't, right now, they don't let me drive. So I can't drive anywhere independently. Um, but
Jason lives in a rural area, so.
yes, a little bit. I moved about 12 years ago, and so it's better, and I certainly can. I do have access to rides. So, but of course, I love to joke about not being able to drive because they don't
Mm-hmm.
let me drive. Um, but in the music realm, I don't find that there has been so much of the um, a problem where those with preconceptions about blindness are just like, oh no, you can't do this, or that
Mm-hmm.
has to be done this way, or this that way. It hasn't been so much like that there, maybe occasionally, but I found it's been very very free flowing. I haven't run into that, and of course, I attribute some of that to my somewhat easygoing personality. I'm usually able to relate to people pretty quickly, and some of the um, any of the doubts they may have are quickly dispelled, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But um, in other areas, um, for example, when I graduated college, I thought, first of all, I thought having a college degree means job, and it wasn't that clear when I graduated. I had the music performance degree, but I also had my management information systems minor, and I thought, oh, I'll get right into programming or right into some sort of computer job, and that was not happening. And I don't know exactly what was being sought um, by the job by the employer, but um, I finally did get a job for a short time at the phone company, and it felt like there was some initial resistance, but what I didn't know is that they were being very tight-lipped, but what I didn't realize is that they actually had someone being trained on assistive technology so that when I got there to be trained, I had someone who was ready to train me. And once I discovered that, I felt a little bad for maybe feeling some resentment for not hearing anything. But I did get to work at the phone company. However, the phone company had a policy about giving the employees the schedule. And this was a job that required me to answer the call and provide directory assistance. They had a different name for it, but that's kind of what I did. And the schedule was such that you were given notice of your next week's schedule at the end of the prior week. And a lot of it involved split shifts, which
Ooh, that's
made
tough.
that was tough. And not only that, I was actually doing pretty well with my music career, and it was very unsettling to not know more in advance what
Right.
my schedule would be like so I could say yes, I'm available this for this music gig, or no, I'm not available.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the job didn't last long. I found the split shifts and the uncertainty undesirable, and just I was unwilling to continue handling it that way. So I left the job on good terms, but with the understanding of what my situation was, and continued with the music career. Um, and even later on, when I worked for Apple, Apple Retail, I didn't discover any preconceptions or any um, challenges there. They were so eager to work with me and help me in any way that I needed that that was a really neat experience as well. Um, I
Great.
yeah, I can't
No,
think of
that's
anything.
great. Fabulous. Is there a person or organization that has assisted you in networking and finding um, like a mentor, or have you come across a mentor?
Uh, in the formal sense, maybe not, but I think as we network, we discover role models, people whom we admire, as far as how they're approaching something, or in the way that they're um, continuing to grow in their own field. And I think I think the American Council of the Blind has been very helpful in um, connecting me with so many others who are going through similar, who have learned things, who are leading in ways that I hadn't anticipated or didn't know much about. Um, and and before I forget, I actually did get a contract position with the American Council of the Blind's media division for quite some time, and that was a very fun and interesting experience as well, where, of course, there were no challenges because we all understood each other. um, but um, specific mentors, I actually had the experience of mentoring others, which I found to be really helpful, or I mean, rewarding, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Um, and that was earlier on when I was in middle and high school, actually, for other younger blind students.
So it wasn't necessarily in the field of music or anything else that you've worked within. It's more been like just mentoring younger kids.
Correct.
That's fabulous because there's
Yeah.
such a need for that. There really is.
Yes. And I actually, sorry, before I move on,
Hmm.
I do remember, even as a child, I connected with adults in some ways more readily than other children my age. And I remember a blind man with whom I connected, and I felt he was quite the mentor because um, he kind of pre-paved the way with concepts and ideas as I went along, so that I wasn't totally foreign when I got to a certain point in my development or in my understanding of things. Because I started talking with him maybe around the age of 8 or 9, and I'm glad I remembered to mention that. And I still talk to him this day, actually.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah,
That's fabulous to have those long-term relationships.
definitely.
So, what is one skill that has assisted you um, within your career as someone who is blind that you think without it would have made it more difficult for you?
I think advocating for self is important. Um, even though I talk about being the worst self promoter ever, I know that it is important for me to, you know, I think it comes into being more when I'm talking with someone and they might have ideas about how I need to do something, or they make presumptions. I think it's very important. uh, it could be easy to not address them as they happen and become resentful, and then it comes out maybe in a less professional way. I think it's important to advocate for self and speak up to clarify and correct misconceptions and presumptions as they happen. I've always felt that, especially when I learned to be stronger and do that, that it is so much better than just letting it be, or building resentment. Um, Also, I think it's important to be open to new ideas. Um, Growing up, my parents sometimes had very limited uh, thoughts on how certain things should happen. And I, of course, being a child with his own mind, didn't always agree with them. And so I would branch out and network with other people. I guess it comes back to that networking,
Hmm.
and learn that there were indeed other ways of doing things. Or sometimes I might have to try on my own and maybe fall on my face or not fall on my face. But at least I got to try on my own and discover, rather than being advised, no, don't do that, or do it only this way, and never know for sure.
Making mistakes are a way to learn.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid of it.
Nope, everybody makes them. And if they
Yes.
tell you they don't, there's a problem.
Yes.
Um, so what is something that you would uh tell your younger self that you wish you knew then what you know now with regards to the world of work?
Yes. Um, I'd say don't let people, even though they're well-meaning, discourage you from anything. I think the worst thing is to be told you can't do something because somebody doesn't know any better. And I've I've been told those things sometimes. I've seen it happen to other people, and it feels awful because I don't believe those things. There's always a way, or there's a a bridge along the way, or something. Um, it's not that it can't be done. And also hang on to those dreams, because that's sometimes that's all we need and that's all we have. And to have somebody attempt to shatter them, even though they are well-meaning, um, I think that, for example, I wanted to be a pop singer. I pictured myself on stage, the microphone, the music, the wild crowds, and things like that. And I was discouraged, like from most individuals. That's really difficult. That's complicated. That's complex. It's a tough world. It's this. It's that. No, do something more, um, I guess, in what they felt would be easier to come by, like, oh, get a degree in social work, or, you know, pursue your assistive technology interests, and get a job in computer programming, or something like that. And while certainly those things could happen, the music has persisted in my life, and I wonder what might have happened if, maybe I didn't take some of those discouragements so seriously, and maybe found more encouraging folks to talk to, regarding music, and uh, getting into a studio and making recordings, and all of that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
hope I'm not
that
too long-winded here.
no, no, you're fine. That was a very good answer and
Okay.
a really good example of what can often happen in various situations that, people are told, "Oh, don't look at this career. Think of something different," or.
Yeah. Even recently, I'm on an email list with many other Braille music readers, and a woman was wanting to start playing the harp, but she was told by one of the teachers in her area, I can't imagine how a blind person would play the harp. You can't do that. Do something else.
Ugh.
And I was incredulous. I just I don't know, even I don't have words to respond immediately, but of course I came up with something that basically informed her that please pursue it. This teacher basically has very limited imagination. Find other teachers, find other people.
Mm.
I'm doing it. Other blind people are doing it. Have at it and have fun with it. It's supposed to be fun.
Do you think that one of the misperceptions, and this could maybe be for sighted people more than a blind person, that they would have is that you're unable to interact with the music at the time you're playing, so what's the purpose behind it? And, as opposed to like maybe sitting down and reading through a piece of music and then playing it based on what you read. I don't know, like I said before, I am not musical, but I could
Hmm.
see where somebody would have a hard time like thinking, okay, well, maybe as a vocalist, reading Braille music is easy because you're singing and interacting with the sheet music in front of you, but
Hmm.
how are you going to have your hands on an instrument and on Braille music? Like that's not going to work.
Yeah,
And and just knowing you and other people who read Braille music and play, it's obviously not the truth.
right. I think there is some of that. I think there are those who read exactly what's in front of them and play it, and that's all there is about it to them. And if they feel somebody can't do that, it's the end. How else are you going to do it? Sorry, I don't know how to teach you. But I
Hmm.
think another aspect as well, and I didn't know this until I was in college. I didn't know that pianists, sighted pianists, often look at the keyboard just to gauge where their hands need to be or quickly make a jump from one location on the keyboard to another. Uh, I never thought of that because I do it all by muscle memory and by context and by feel. And now I know, for example, with the harp, uh, people are looking at the harp and figuring out where their hands need to be. And I think there are some who get very caught up in that visual
Hmm.
nature of looking at the instrument and knowing exactly what to do. And it's a stumbling block for them because they feel they can't teach without somebody being able to do those very same things. They have no imagination as to working around that.
Right.
Um, so I
Yeah,
think
no,
that's a
I mean
problem.
that definitely is a problem, and it's like when you were just talking about the person with being told, "Oh, you can't learn the harp." Yeah.
Hmm.
I could see how that would definitely become an obstacle.
Hmm.
And part of working with people when you're teaching something is being imaginative and thinking outside the box. So,
Yes.
um,
Rory, we
so
have some questions
I
in
was just
chat.
gonna say
If you
I've talked way too long tonight.
Yeah, so really great discussion tonight, Jason. A lot of curiosity around your music and reading Braille music and things like that. So wondering um where do you obtain your Braille music now? Do you use any kind of software to produce it, or um, do you obtain it from somewhere special?
Hmm.
And then also kind of what got you interested in the harp?
Oh, okay. So I'll try to go in order. The most of my Braille music is obtained through the National Library Service, the BARD program, and oftentimes I find reading the hard copy more rewarding. So I will order the on demand. I do happen to have an embosser as well, and what I need to do is just get the right size paper so that I can emboss on demand when I want the music. But there's so much music available through there, as well as there's Braille orch.org, as in orchestra, brailleorg.org. They have a lot of resource Braille music as well. Um, I'm sure there are other resources that I'm just not thinking of at the moment, but I think those are the primary resources that I have. I also have software. There's MuseScore, which has become very accessible and is a free and open source way to not only compose the music and get it printed or embossed, but it's just a very fun and easy way to get started with some of that. It will actually produce BRF files of the music that you input in the computer, but there is also Braille translation software from the, oh gosh, it's Salmi Center for the Blind. I'm just forgetting exactly what it stands for, the SAOMAI Center for the Blind, and they provide free Braille translation software that also knows how to deal with music XML files and MuseScore files. And so I can easily create something and have it brailled and embossed. Um, However, I think some of my work, I'm actually a music director at a local church, and I have found that that really gets me into the Braille music mode because sometimes I need lyrics, I need the notes, and yes, I can hear them, but it's very helpful to write them down as I go. So I use my Braille Sense 6 a lot in quickly writing down notes and things that I'm hearing. Uh, and I think some of that is helpful in relaying it to other people too, so that they have it. Um, um, I can read it rather than take it out of my head and potentially miss something. Um, I wanted to mention too that the Salmi Center for the Blind also has an online translator, so you can try it without actually having to download anything. You feed it the music, whether it be music XML or a MuseScore file, and it will translate online and let you download the BRF output. Um, Digital translation is wonderful, but it's not error proof. And I think it's always good. For example, I have one transcriber that I write to occasionally when I want something transcribed, who I know will do a great job and there won't be any errors. Because, for example, print music is available in PDF very often. And when it comes to that sort of file, translation software can do some sort of optical character recognition on it, but there's always chances that things aren't being interpreted properly. There's actually even an iOS app called PlayScore 2. And PlayScore 2 is wonderful because as a blind musician, I can take a picture of print music and it'll just play it on the phone. It's wonderful that way for me to be able to quickly gather something, and I can tell by listening whether there are mistakes or not. And if it's pretty decent, I can export it to a music XML and put it through the Salmi Braille translation software and emboss it in Braille music. It is very, very cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took a bit of learning curve and I'm still learning and the technology is always improving. I think when I started this, we couldn't edit the music in Salmi, but now it lets us go through the music and make some corrections even before it's embossed, so that we can make sure that the final output is what we're wanting. But it is very neat technology for sure.
And you said that's SALMI?
I'm sorry,
Ah,
SAOMAI.
okay. I'm trying to put these some of these resources in chat.
Sure.
We do have someone who's with us tonight who has is a public school teacher and has a student next semester who's going to be taking music lessons, and so they're
Oh,
wanting to get
wonderful.
resources for their student who's visually impaired.
Wonderful.
So I'm trying to give him resources, and everyone here tonight. So I'm keeping busy in the chat. And then
Oh,
the next question was about your harp. What brought you
oh
to the harp
yes,
and how you came to love the harp?
And we only
sure.
have about 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, short story is, I was always interested in the harp, but never really got to the around to actually taking steps to approaching a harp teacher. And I had a friend who discovered a harp teacher right near where I live, and she was very nice. Oh, please come over. I'll show you the harps. So I came over. I was playing them a little bit. She figured out that I was picking it up very quickly and said, "Oh, I'd be happy to come to your house and teach you." So that got me into finding a harp. I started out with a harp that I rented to own, and of course it's grown from there. Somehow I now have 5 harps. Don't ask me how that happened. I have a few folk harps and one pedal harp, and it is wild. But I need to sell some because houses aren't made to house bunches of harps like this. They take up room.
So what is the difference between the two harps that you just mentioned?
Sure. A lever harp or folk harp uses levers near the top or the neck
Oh,
of the harp to
yes.
adjust the pitch of the note, and they can only adjust a half step up when the lever's up, or a half step down when the lever is not engaged. And they're very neat that way, and you don't have to worry about pedals, but the pedal harps have pedals at the bottom that control pitches, and they do it for the entire um, range of that particular note. So if I adjust the A pedal, all the A's on the harp will be
Hmm.
adjusted, and it can adjust half step up or down. So there's a bit more flexibility there. You can do some really neat jazz chords. Um, really, and it's nice because you don't have to take your fingers away from the strings. You can keep playing and use your feet to adjust the pitches and just keep right on playing.
Ah,
With a lever harp, you have to quickly take your finger off the strings and adjust the lever and put your fingers back on the string. And it can get a little daunting sometimes.
yeah, especially when you don't see where those fingers land and you're like, okay, this is the third one over or something
Yes.
like that. Yeah, I could see where that would be annoying.
Muscle memory, big help in that
Yeah.
regard, and not always a big help because my muscles sometimes don't remember. Um,
Do the harps sound different in their sound?
Yes, often lever harps are tuned with nylon strings. There's not as much tension. They're a little easier to play and they have a lighter, more sparkly sound. Whereas the pedal harps they use a lot of gut strings and they have a higher amount of tension to make the notes louder. And they have a warmer sound typically, but there are some bright sounding pedal harps as well. And I love them both for different reasons. The pedal harps are heavier. They're wonderful, but they're heavy. The lever harps are often lighter and easier to take around to a gig, for example.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Now, I don't know if this is possible, but is there a way that if people want to get in touch,
Yeah, you
they
can share your info if you
Oh, I
want.
can. Oh,
Yep.
wonderful. If anyone has any further questions about music braille, anything, please feel free to reach out. It's jasonconcertmusician@gmail.com. It's JASONConcertMusican, all one word, @gmail.com.
Fabulous.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And
Shall we wrap it up, Lori?
yeah, I was going to say we
All
have
right.
literally like 3 minutes on my clock, so
I
All
can
right.
talk as long as you need me to.
Well, I will stop the recording and give our codes
give our
here.
code.
Oh, right. Yes.